6:31, so we'll get started. I'm actually going to be running the meeting tonight. Mayor Jay is on a very well-deserved vacation, so you guys got me today. Okay, so looking at the agenda, any comments or can we move forward? Okay, seeing or hearing no comments, we'll move forward. Public comments on the agenda item. I see that we have a lot of guests here tonight. Thanks for coming. Any public comments? If so, please come on up to the, make sure your microphone's on and, I think just sit down here. It's a study session. We're chill. Yeah.
All right. Name and address and all that as usual?
Same name, address. Spell your last name.
Okay. Good evening, I guess it is. Adam Wiley, 9865 West 35th. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the active transportation, Pierce Street, which I know is on your agenda for this evening. So first of all, I'd like to thank council and staff for advocating for the cycling and working hard to find a practical solution on Pierce Street. I know this has been on the agenda a number of times, and that's great. And that means we're really vetting it, going through the process, and that's great. So as you're aware, the Pierce Street is our only bikeable north-south connector and crosses the ridge at 38th. So I think, in my opinion, of all the active transportation improvements we can make, this one might be one of the most significant we can do. So we need to do it right. The improvements proposed tonight constitute improvements that will make Pierce safer for all modes of transportation. But I think we can get more bang for our buck if we can, and get more riders by focusing these limited dollars on full bike lanes on the most important segment, 32nd to 38th. So Bicycle Colorado, we spoke to them. Their experience shows full lanes attract more riders. The Bike Ped Master Plan specifies full lanes in this section. So the Active Transportation Advisory Team leadership is asking council to consider focusing on the segment of Pierce between 32nd and 38th avenues, build full bike lanes in both directions for that stretch, and phasing in bike facilities for the remainder as more funding becomes available in the future. So this will really kind of hit, I'm just going to hit four of the kind of the areas I think where we'll benefit, the community will benefit. So informed planning with limited funds. Obviously you need to choose between doing all with a less robust option versus doing a portion with a full service option. Focusing on a portion and doing it first class will show our residents and neighbors that we're serious about smart development. For safety, this stretch of Pierce has a high vehicle count and traffic traveling over the speed limit regularly. By creating full bike facilities, you're making the street safer for people traveling by car and by bikes. Also, these dedicated bike lanes will attract those 60% of riders who are interested but concerned. The shared bike parking lanes, while definitely an improvement, they do still intimidate less confident riders. For economic development, this 6-block stretch connects 32nd, 35th, and to the 38th business district, bringing riders to support local businesses. And also for the regional connectivity, 35th in Denver is a D4 route, and we found out today it will become a bike boulevard in Denver this fall, increasing ridership along that route. It's already currently heavily used by commuters and community riders. So finally, I'd like to offer ADAT's help as we seek the best options in this and future projects. And thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, any other public comment tonight? Might come up during our agenda items. Okay, so first on the agenda is the Healthy Eating Active Living, the HEAL designation. Genevieve or Patrick or?
Yeah, I'll start it off. We have several guests here this evening who would like to present. Rachel Holton with the Live Well Ridge, she's our transition coordinator. Molly Hanson with Jefferson County Public Health Policy Analyst, who was our first Live Well coordinator. And Julie George, who is the current HEAL Cities and Towns Campaign Director.
Please, we'd love to have you guys come to the table.
And I think they're going to start off the presentation. And yeah, sure. That's great.
And remember to make sure your mic's on.
And Councilwoman Wooden brought this to council a few weeks ago at a study session and mentioned that we were looking at the designation of the HEAL designation for our community. And this is a continuation of that discussion.
Okay, take it
All right.
away.
All right, is my mic on? Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself, Rachel Hulteen. I am the transition coordinator for Live Well Wheat Ridge. I'm also a Wheat Ridge resident, so this work has been really meaningful and exciting for me on both fronts. I'm excited tonight to be joined by Molly Hansen, who's just been a delight to work with and is just such a great champion of community health, and Julie George from Heal Cities and Towns campaign. Also with us tonight, we have Max Gibson, who is over there. Max has been working with Molly on the CCPD grant and has also been a great liaison for myself. And then Elise Lubell over there, who is the fairy godmother of our community wellness grant. It was Elise's vision of bringing in the funding to the community 9 years ago. And we're really fortunate to have, even though the coordinator position has transitioned several times, we still have a really intact team. So that is such a great thing to bring tonight. Well, first of all, I'd like to begin with an expression of gratitude to all the members of council, both those that are present here and those who have worked with us in the past. We're also grateful for the city's staff, and especially for the mayor, who we wish was here tonight, but we are glad for her sake she's not. Your dedicated leadership in creating policies, programs, initiatives, which craft a thriving community where the healthy choice is increasingly the easy choice, has been a benefit to all community members. This has actually been a transformational time, not just for Wheat Ridge, but also for the communities within our county, across the state and beyond, as the role of community health has evolved to include how we envision, plan, and build cities that foster healthy lifestyles. Today, the evidence of the city's commitment to community health is in the significant body of policies adopted over the 9 years since Live Well Wheat Ridge community investment funding began. A partial list of the specific policies is included in the policy scan provided by Jefferson County Public Health. But I want to say I think the proof has been on the sidewalks, in the streets, in gardens and schoolyards, where the citizens have been walking, biking, growing, learning, and thriving. This success has come through collaborative strategies across multiple sectors, which have been supported by community involvement. As Live Well funding steps down this year, the importance of maintaining the collaboration of grassroots and grass tops involvement is critical. While this is the last year of Live Well funding, it should not be the last year of coordinated healthy eating, active living policy, which is why participation in the Heal Cities and Towns campaign is a timely and valuable opportunity. We are especially grateful that Mayor Jay, Councilman Wooden, Patrick Goff, and Joyce Manwaring were willing to roll up their sleeves and draft a resolution that really demonstrate Wheat Ridge's commitment to offering offering a high quality of life for its residents, visitors of all ages and abilities. In many respects, the resolution celebrates where we've been as a community and where we continue to go. As highlighted, there are a lot of impressive policy and project accomplishments that staff, the Planning Commission, City Council, and community advocates should all be commended for. So what is the value of being a Heal Cities and Towns participant? In a few moments, Julie George with the Heal Cities and Towns campaign will share more details about the campaign and the benefits available to all communities. But how will Wheat Ridge benefit? Well, at this moment in time, Wheat Ridge has a coalition of community partners working together to advance policy, implement programs, and identify next steps. This coalition includes connections to regional partners who can identify where we can align and streamline resources and join together to strengthen our readiness for new funding. Heal Cities and Towns will help inform Wheat Ridge of funding opportunities to support active communities and healthy food access, but more importantly, it will help keep Wheat Ridge engaged as a leader. I want to thank you for your continued leadership in making Wheat Ridge an even stronger community, and we encourage your support in this resolution. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Molly Hansen. Again, I'm the Health Policy Analyst with Jefferson County Public Health. I thought I'd take just a couple moments and give you a little bit of brief history about how Live Well Wheat Ridge came to be, and then have a little bit of discussion about how we could possibly support you moving forward. So back in 2006, partners came together with Jefferson County Public Health and partners in Wheat Ridge, and we applied for a Thriving Communities grant with Kaiser. It was an exciting opportunity to do some assessment and to address healthy eating, active living strategies. What happened was Live Well Colorado Incorporated and those funders, Colorado Health Foundation, Kaiser Permanente, and the State Health Department came together and said, we're going to incorporate and bring all of those resources together to have more of a strategic approach to healthy communities. So Live Well Wheat Ridge became a community under Live Well Colorado around 2008. Around 2008 or 2009, as the evidence around healthy communities became more specific, there was a stronger focus on policies and planning to support healthy communities. So Live Well Wheat Ridge has come alongside the city of Wheat Ridge and supported your planning processes. Live Well Wheat Ridge provided funding for the Bike Ped Master Plan. We also provided funding for the 38th Avenue Corridor Downtown Plan. We also supported the mixed-use zoning plan update process by providing resources for a community engagement website. And it's just been a really exciting opportunity to engage with the City of Wheat Ridge and partners, especially through the coalition. So we really want to support you guys as you move forward. We think the Heal Cities and Town resolution is an exciting next step. I will take just a couple moments and talk about this document that you received in your packet. Did you guys have a chance to look at this? So what happened was Jefferson County Public Health in 2012 received a chronic disease prevention grant that funds Max and I to work on healthy eating, active living strategies really across the county. One of the first things we did was we did some assessment. So we hired a landscape architect, actually Bill Monahar, the first planning and technical consultant for Live Well Wheat Ridge, to do a policy scan of the 5 largest local governments in Jefferson County. This is your policy scan. We completed it about a year ago. It calls out all the great policies under 3 different areas. The first is healthy food access, active and public transportation, and community design and land use. So what we did was we looked at Envision Wheat Ridge, some of your sub-area plans, and some of your zoning code. We hope this is a great resource for you moving forward. If you decide to move forward with your HEAL resolution, this can be a great tool to call out your successes. It can also be a great tool to communicate your successes to stakeholders in the region. If you have any specific questions about this guide or this tool, feel free to contact Max Gibson. So just really quickly, just to wrap up, we wanted to talk about moving forward. Jefferson County Public Health would like to invite you. We have a countywide HEAL policy team. This is a countywide coalition that meets every other month. All of the local governments are represented. Currently, Rachel's attending. It's an opportunity to look at regional approaches to healthy eating, active living. This coalition meets every other month, and currently we're meeting at Jefferson County Open Space. I think Genevieve Wooden, Councilmember Wooden, was going to try to attend the last one. In the future, we'd love elected officials or city staff to attend the HEAL policy team. The second thing we'd like to do to support you moving forward is with grant writing. So currently there are 2 grants right now, one through the State Health Department and one through the Colorado Health Foundation. We are creating ad hoc work groups to form a strategic response to these 2 grant opportunities to support healthy eating, active living. So both work groups will kick off in June, and we would love to have representation from Wheat Ridge. Our hope is to identify regional healthy eating, active living strategies and to resource local governments and nonprofits to address those strategies. So if you'd like more information about those 2 collective approaches to those 2 grant opportunities, feel free to contact me. The third thing how we'd like to support you moving forward is please let us know if you need support identifying sub-county health data. So as we move forward, as local governments are adopting these resolutions and are doing planning and policy and identifying priorities related to healthy eating, active living, if you need sub-county health data, please contact us. We'd love to help you address any data gaps. So we thank you for your consideration. We hope as you move forward, as you consider policies under the HEAL policy resolution, please contact us if you have any questions. Thank you.
So, hi, I'm Julie George with Live Well Colorado, and I'm the director of the Heal Cities and Towns campaign. And so I'm here just tonight to tell you a little bit more about the campaign. I think Molly and Rachel have already done a great job of talking about the wonderful work you guys have already done in collaboration with Live Well Wheat Ridge and now with Jeffco Public Health. And I also wanted to thank Rachel and the staff and Councilmember Wooden for the work you have done to draft the resolution that you guys have before us, because it's a great resolution with it highlights a lot of the work that you've done and also sets forth some future goals, and so it's one of the best resolutions that we've seen so far. But to tell you a little bit about the campaign, we started about a year ago, and we're in partnership with the Municipal League. So the leadership of the Municipal League, Live Well Colorado approached them, and Sam Mamet and his staff thought this would be a great new partnership for the Municipal League to join into. And so we started this about a year ago, and the focus is policy at the local level, at the municipal level. Live Well Colorado has done some work, at the state level and a little bit at the federal level. But as you guys well know, because this is the work you do, the rubber really meets the road at the local level, and the decisions that you guys make is really what impacts the way your residents live. So the whole concept behind this campaign is to continue to work with you all at the policy level, which you've got a great start on already from the work that you've done over the last few years. So to help you continue that work through technical assistance, you'll see in your packet that I passed out. The outside is just kind of our general brochure, and then inside there's a fact sheet on the 3 main policy areas that the campaign covers, which is access to healthy food, active living, and then healthy workplace. And actually you'll see on the access to healthy food that we actually highlighted Wheat Ridge, your happiness gardens, even though you weren't part of the campaign. We just thought it was a great example that we wanted to include in there about a year ago when we started creating our documents. And which is also one of the benefits of the campaign is we have a website, we'll continue to do materials, we'll have a summit once a year, and it's an opportunity for you guys to shine in front of your peers and to do some peer networking and, not always feel like you're doing it alone, and find other municipalities that you can learn from, and you can actually inform what they're doing as well, leading by example. And the other part of the campaign too is frankly just the recognition for the work that you're doing, and that I think you're very proud of and you should be proud of. And we highlight you on our website. You get to use the Heal Cities and Towns logo. We'll present you with a plaque. So there's a part of that. That's a part of the campaign too. But then by joining, we continue to work with you, offer technical assistance in those policy areas, and we have somebody in each of the areas that has expertise that can help work with your staff and make connections for you. And as I think Molly mentioned, if you're applying for a grant, the campaign is always happy to write letters of support, because you've already obviously showing that this is important work to you, and we'd like to help you in that endeavor as well. So unless there's questions, I think that's it for me.
I think rarely do I get to share the good news, is that this is actually a no-cost campaign to join. So it's an opportunity for Wheat Ridge to really get some resources to support advancing the healthy eating, active living policy work that's already in place. And one thing that really stood out to me when I was getting ready for tonight, and I had an opportunity to speak with Mike Braden, who's the deputy city manager for Littleton. Littleton was the first adopter of the Heal Cities and Towns campaign, and they were not just the first, but just a abundantly enthusiastic city. And they have continued to advance through the campaign. But when I was speaking with Mike, and I asked him why they jumped on board so quickly, and he mentioned specifically that it was an opportunity to inform their community about the work that they're doing. It was an opportunity to get closer to some of the funders who could help advance the policymaking. But he said most emphatically that this campaign is what you make it. You can let it be a plaque on the wall kind of participation, or you can really partner with the resources and the tools that are available to really let it be something to support the work you're doing. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Questions, Tracy?
So I'm reading through the campaign levels, and I'm not sure where we fall on this now, but we seem to have done a lot, so hopefully we're kind of up there. But for the elite status, it says 3 policies described plus 2 additional. How do we know which policies are the
So-
target?
Right, thank you. I should have explained that. So there's 4 levels to the campaign, and Wheat Ridge would come in at the 2nd level. You've already embraced some of the HEAL work. You have HEAL policies on the books already. And so you would come, so the levels are eager, active, fit, and elite. So you would come in at the active level. Then to move up, you have to adopt subsequent policies. And I have an advisory group that's made up of some city managers and council members and a couple mayors. And that was one of the things that they really thought was important to the campaign, to have some subsequent levels to try to keep everybody motivated. Like Rachel was saying with Mike Broughton, you can, come into the campaign and not really embrace it. But if you do, we wanted to acknowledge those municipalities that do. And so that's why we have the subsequent levels. So to get to the fit level, it would be a new policy in each of the 3 areas. And so far, Littleton is the only municipality who's done that over the past year as we've started this adventure. And then to get to the elite level, it's just 5 total. So you would already have 1 in each of the 3 policy areas, and then it could be in 2 others. It could all be in active living, the 2 additional, it doesn't matter, it's just 5 total.
So the 3 are active community, healthy food access, and healthy workplace? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. DiTullio?
I had a quest for Elise. Can you come on up for a second? Since you and I worked on this 8 years ago when we signed the documents. It's not that new. How you been?
Hi.
So they're talking about policies here in the council and the city adopting policies. What kind of policies are they expecting with Jefferson? Are we talking about smoking policies or more social engineering type policies where we're telling people what to drink, what to eat, what to smoke, what not to do? Can you give examples of what's been passed by other cities that we would be expected to approve?
I'm probably not the best one to tell you about what other cities have adopted. However, I can talk about the city determines the action in healthy eating, active living that they want to adopt. So there are no requirements in terms of which ones you choose. So the good news is you get to adopt something that fits with your residents' interests. The goals that Envision document talks about, some of your sub-plans talk about. You have a really good foundation for a lot of the work that you can build upon. So, you guys develop it. So it's not about an external force saying you must adopt a particular way to go. So I want to make sure I'm addressing
So
your
basically
question.
Jefferson County Public Health isn't recommending or requiring adoption by the cities of certain policies?
What we subscribe to are a list of strategies that have been studied and are evidence-based through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Institute of Medicine, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Colorado Health Foundation, et cetera. And they have proven evidence-based strategies that really do make a difference when it comes to reducing the burden from unhealthy living and sedentary lifestyle. So there are so many to choose from. It really is up to the municipality to look at the interests and needs and budgets and resources. And the health department really does want to support the cities in this endeavor through a number of different ways, but we are not making recommendations. However, if the largest cities were to look at adopting something similar across the county, there could be a very large collective impact that might not be realized by Wheat Ridge adopting something that is not done across the county. So that may be a consideration to look at what some of the focus areas from the other municipalities are and to see if that fits. And then if everyone were to do something related, the impact could be very large.
Jerry, example of a policy that the city's already adopted would be the urban agriculture amendments to the code that we've done. Our employee wellness programs, which are part of our budget, those are a couple things that we've already done.
Right, and I support those as long as we're not spending a lot of money telling residents what to do, how to do it. So what I'm saying, where I'm getting at, or we're passing laws that creates more criminals of some type if they're doing something that's legal now, is what I'm trying to get at.
I appreciate your concern on that.
Well, I appreciate you working on this with us
Well-
8 years ago.
Thank you.
Persistence is.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
I realize the gist of this is about activity and eating, but listening to what you just said, I'm wondering if something like advocating immunization is a policy that would qualify.
Well,
Julie, I'll let
as
you
far as
jump in
the
there.
Heal Cities and Towns campaign that, was what we're talking about now, it really is healthy eating, active living. So we do not go into those areas that Jeffco Public Health does. So our focus is really those 3 policy areas that fall within healthy eating and active living. And just so you guys know, you actually have a little, you kind of have a leg up on a lot of the other municipalities because you do have the Jeffco Public Health who's here to work collaboratively with the campaign as well, and a lot of the municipalities don't have that. So you guys get a little extra help that some of the others aren't. But the campaign that's before you today, the Heal Cities and Towns campaign, is just healthy eating, active living.
But I would add, that would not preclude public health action outside of this resolution or this healthy eating, active living work. If you're interested in mounting some campaign or to look at immunization or other public health arenas, areas, I think we should have a conversation. There may be some things that we could be doing to work together.
Ms. Wooden?
The way I have seen this, the HEAL designation, is providing opportunities and not asking people to do things. In other words, we're providing, for example, along Kipling, providing a sidewalk that's easier for people to walk down, that's giving people more access to walking if they would choose to, from 32nd all the way down to 44th. So that's an example of how I see the HEAL designation helping us provide opportunities. There might be, as Molly mentioned, grant funds available if we get this designation, if we decide to go ahead with the designation. So as far as what it would do, I see it as providing opportunities to our residents to make it easier for them to make choices should they choose to do so, but not forcing anyone, just making opportunities.
Thank you. Any other comments? So I think what we have in order tonight is to gather a consensus, show of hands, nod of heads of moving forward with this ordinance or resolution, I'm sorry. Okay, so it looks like we'll move forward with that. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Great work, thank you. Okay, speaking of active living, we'll move right on to the Pierce Street Bike Facilities update. Mr. Brink, what you got for us?
Yes, thank you. Coming back to you with another report here on the Pierce Street bike lanes, bike improvements. Since the last time we met with you, we've had a chance to actually get some numbers, actually give you a good idea of what these proposals would cost. We went out and got some quotes and bids that included striping, so we have a pretty good feel now for what the improvements would cost. And per the last study session, we talked a lot about shared use lanes, which would be parking or biking. Basically serves as a bike lane when there aren't cars parked there. And then, we have gone through a couple of public informational meetings, have, gotten a lot of good public comments. We've got the bicycle, the ATAT group over here that has been real helpful, giving us good comments, strong advocates for biking and walking and non-motorized transportation. We've got some good comments. We've also got the residents that live out there. Some are very sensitive to their parking needs and changes and so forth. So Mark Westberg, sitting with me here tonight, has put a lot more effort into the design itself, how we can do different things and still preserve parking as much as we can. So we've kept both options on the table for that reason, and was mentioned previously in the public comments, our long-range master plan for bike and peds does call out for bike lanes on Pierce Street, and being sensitive to the parking needs out there too, we've again kept both on the table. If you look at the report here, we've kind of just broken it down in two as an alternative one and an alternative two. Alternative one is the dedicated bike lanes, the full length of Pierce, a little over $100,000. And for alternative two, which is the shared parking and bicycle lanes, we're looking at about $60,000 for that. And I want to emphasize too that this isn't one or the other, all or nothing. Per the public comments we heard tonight from Adam there, 32nd Avenue up to 38th Street would probably be the best place if we were going to do dedicated bike lanes. That would be the best spot as far as getting the best bang for the buck, because 32nd Avenue, is a major bike route, and we've talked a lot in past conversations about getting bikes, pedestrians up to 38th Avenue as well. So that would be a good place to do that. And I want to mention too, under both scenarios, we would be looking at the striping, narrowing the traffic lanes to about 10 feet. That would calm, slow the traffic down as well, which would help, and we can do that under either scenario with the dedicated lanes or the shared lanes. So we can open it up for discussion there if you have any questions. Be happy to. And if you want to look at pictures of the street, I've got on the computer there just photographs if you actually want to look at what it looks like out there too.
Okay. Mr. DiTulio, do you have questions?
Well, just some comments. I support the bike lanes, obviously, but we have to keep into account that we're going into a neighborhood that's been established. And my concern is that if we make dedicated bike lanes anywhere right now and someone tries to park in front of their house like they do now in districts 1 or 2, that they're going to get a ticket or get a violation or something where they had that parking in their front yard before. And I really have an issue that we're just going to have bike lanes from 32nd to 38th. I think the goal was to have them all the way from 26 to 44, so there was some type of transportation movement for bicycles. So I felt that alternative 2, which would be shared parking and bike lanes, made the most sense because it goes from 26 to 44th. It covers all that area. We still allow parking for the school and the church on Pierce, north of 38th, but there's still residents who park on Pierce Street all the way from 26th to 38th. And I think that I would like to not see them become a victim of losing parking or getting a ticket for they're having a party and someone parks in front of their property and they get a ticket from the police department for parking in a bike lane. So I think the win-win for District 1, and I would hope you would consider Bud and I don't know where Bud stands on this, but for me, for District 1, I think a shared parking arrangement would be the most fair for everybody, and plus the alternative 2 falls within the budget of 60. I think we budgeted $63,000 for this, and this comes in at 60. So we would at least start the process of having shared bike lanes all the way from 26th to 44th, and then I guess as time goes on, if we decide to widen Pierce or something changes where you can put dedicated bike lanes, and I think that would be at the time to do it. So for me, as a representative of these folks, I would say alternative 2 would be the most fair for everybody.
I just want to mention one other thing too that I don't think I mentioned in my initial comments is in your packets there too, we have under the Exhibit A, map of the street that shows where parking would be preserved under the dedicated bike lane scenario. And for most of that whole stretch, we would be able to preserve parking on both sides of the street, with a few exceptions for the whole length if we did have dedicated bike lanes. And Mark's put a lot of effort into that between doing some shifting with the center line or using some of the existing parking that's more on the shoulder out there. I just wanted to mention that as well.
So you're saying that there would be parking the whole way?
For,
With the dedicated?
with the dedicated for most of the street, there are a couple places where we'd have the shared arrangement or no parking at all. That colored one, right. Basically, anywhere you see color there would be a place that people could park.
And then the thing you mentioned for 32nd to 38th with the full bike lanes, there's not a cost on that, right?
It would probably, it's going to be somewhere in between the two options, and probably because it's just 1/3 of the entire thing, it'll be somewhere in the range of $15,000 to $20,000 over the $53,000. So it would still exceed the $63,000 budget, but we didn't look at what it would be just for that one piece. We would certainly have that information available for the.
I'm going to mention one other thing too. When we looked at these cost differences, and if we wanted to go to dedicated lanes, even for a shorter segment like 32nd to 38th, where we could achieve some cost savings. Right now, Pierce Street going south from 32nd is already striped with a shoulder stripe as kind of a shared use. So our intent there was, even if we preserved it as a shared use, we'd restripe it to narrow up the lanes. We wouldn't have to do that there. I mean, it kind of serves that purpose right now. We could put up some bike route signs, so that's a place we could save some money too as an option.
My inclination would be to go the whole way and do it right the entire way. If you look at the price difference, I realize we have, there's a $40,000 difference. I realize that. And I also acknowledge that there would be citizens who would be upset by having their parking taken away. I mean, that's a real concern. But we're either in this for biking or we're not. And my inclination would be to go the whole way. Option one.
Mr. DiTullio?
So did you say that you would be able to preserve the parking in front of the church and the school if we did dedicated bike lanes?
Look on this map, Jerry. I think it might help.
Is part of the package.
That's because the school's
That's the one location directly in front of the school for that entire block is where there's curb and gutter on both sides. And so whenever there's curb and gutter on both sides of the street, we're very constrained by what can happen. And that's the one place in front of the church where there wouldn't be parking on the church side of the street because of the way things line up on either end at 41st and at,
There would or wouldn't
and at 38th.
There would or wouldn't be?
Would not be. Would
Not on
be
the east
parking
side,
in
but
front
there
of-
is on the west side.
There is on the west side where the residents are, yes.
See, Tim, you're going to push traffic and parking off of Pierce into Otis Street and 41st Avenue if you take away that parking for the church and the school, because it's active all day, Sunday, Saturday, plus the school year.
Is your main concern picking up kids and dropping?
No, my main concern is that we have residents who park there and people who visit that locations now, and they have a place to park, and you're going to send that parking into Otis Street from between 38th and 41st or 41st Avenue, and it's going to bring up more traffic and more cars in the neighborhoods during church, during school, during any event that's going on there. That's why the shared parking fits into the budget, and it's also a win-win for both sides.
Can I just ask a quick question? Have we done any kinds of counts on the parking? I mean, I know, my house is right down the street from Wilmar Davis, and there's certain times that it's crowded, and then there's certain times that there's nobody parked in front of it. So I'm just curious, have we done any kind of at 8 a.m. there's this many cars, at 2 p.m. there's this many cars, at noon, at 3, at 7, Tuesdays, Saturdays?
For just right at the church or for the whole street?
Either or. More importantly, right at the church, because I think that's a
we haven't done a
concern.
parking survey. We haven't run up and down the street at different times of the day and counted the cars. I know that when I've driven the street, we've looked at our aerials, we've looked at Google Street View, those different kinds of things. There are generally cars on the street at various locations. The one place they show up most often is at the church when the aerials are done, but that's in the middle of the day during a weekday typically. And so the parking lot's relatively empty. There are several cars parked in front of the church, I think, just for convenience, because that's where the front door is. They don't want to go around to the back and then have to walk around possibly. So,
It's not that there's not parking.
yeah,
It's just-
well, in that location. Now, on Sundays, or if they have a big funeral, if
Right.
they have some kind of an event, they may overflow quite a bit. I know that years ago, we had some complaints on Otis Street with how the church was handling the traffic for school drop-off and school pickup, and one of our guys went out and watched that and talked with him, and they redid some things. We've not had any complaints since then. Generally, it's not the school's problem, it's the parents are generally the problem when it comes to these kind of things. But so part of our concern with, especially in front of the church, with having that be a shared parking bike lane, is that there's almost always cars parked there, and so there's just not a lot of room for the bikes to sort of wiggle by there. If it's one car every once in a while, they can watch for gaps in traffic and do that. If there's only a foot or a foot and a half extra in addition to the normal parking space, there's not a lot of room there if there's cars parked there all the time. But again, that's part of the decisions you guys have to decide what to do.
Well, Councilman DeTullio, would you be okay then if we made an accommodation so that we do option 1 except between 38th and 41st?
My goal is that people going to those locations don't get a parking ticket. So if we can accommodate from I know it's District 2 also, but if you can accommodate 38th to 44th so that parents, parishioners, visitors are not going to get a ticket because they parked in a bike lane that's not being used, I'd be okay with that. Right.
How about 41st? Because the 44th is really sort of out of the church.
Well, 38th to 44th. Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm
That's
saying
what you're
38th to 41st.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it kind of be up to Christy and Zach. I mean, there's parking on that street all the way down from the residents too. I hate to see people lose their parking permanently. I mean, the alternative too gives you the best of both. I thought that because when the bicyclers are riding and that there's no parking in the street, they're in that lane, they're safe, and then they can go around. If there's a car or two,
Yeah, I was just going to mention that if you look on the hand or on the exhibit in your packet there, from 41st up to 44th, we do show that as shared parking there. I mean the shared could certainly be extended, south on the church side all the way to 38th too. I mean that's an option. The blue, correct?
Could you say it again then?
Yeah, the blue color here that we have shown as shared use right now between 44th and 41st, we could extend that on to the south all the way up to 38th in front of the church, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with that as a District 2 rep?
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is I would like to create as much as we can a designated parking lane, but if we have to, in that area, kind of create a shared or something like that, I would like to have it be actually a bike lane instead of something that we kind of half-shot did to hopefully help.
Yeah, and just to clarify, from 38th to 41st, if we do shared on one side, it becomes shared on both sides. There's not enough room to have everything in there. So if we do the shared option in front of the church, then it's essentially from 38th to 44th, it would be the shared option. South of 38th could all be dedicated bike lanes if that was the decision to make. But yeah, if we do, I just want to clarify, if we do shared on one side in front of the church, it becomes shared on both sides because of the width that's available.
Okay. And I think we even previously spoke that that's a less traveled route anyways, so it might.
There's 4,000 cars a day north of 38th, and south of 38th all the way to 26th is 6,000 cars a day.
Yeah, and cyclists too.
So I guess to answer Mr. Fitzgerald's question, I would support 38th to 44th shared parking on both sides.
Ms. Wooden?
My question is, I agree that we should do it right the first time, and that would mean alternative 1 with the adjustment that we've just discussed. My question is, we have the $63,000 dedicated to that. Would the additional come through in our next budget?
Well, you could do a supplemental budget appropriation now. Yeah, to cover the difference. Yep. They'd come from the general fund reserves. Yep.
Okay, Ms. Langworthy and then Mr. Starker, please.
We were duking out.
I know, I solved it for you.
And then and
I solved it
call
for
my
you.
name, I'm like, he was threatened by that. I have just a quick question and then a comment, but on your map, you don't have that east side marked as any parking. I mean, across the street you do. Refers to. Well, no, but this is, I mean, this map, I thought this map was what currently is on that road, and right now you don't. No, this is, if we do bike lanes, this is. We would, okay. So this isn't the, all right, that's helpful. So I couldn't figure out why you would have nothing marked there. Right. So.
Today, it's mostly parked on both sides of the street, the entire course. There's a lot of places where people park partly on asphalt and partly on gravel. So that's those yellow areas. In this map, we think it's the same kind of thing.
So all right, so if there's nothing there then, there's no parking. With the new plan, that would take away all the parking. Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify by the map.
Any of the non-highlighted areas, including areas near intersections and stuff like that, those are places where there would be no parking. Certainly people could still, add parking on their private lots, but there's no parking there, so there's curb and gutter, so it's a little harder to do that.
Well, that's fine. Just wanted to clarify because I wasn't sure if this was before or after map, and is it after map? Okay.
So did you also have a comment,
Which,
Tracy?
I support, I really do support the 32nd to 38th, making that the dedicated lane. If that's where the bikers are using it, then let's give it to them. I don't really see a problem making shared lanes north of 38th and south of 32nd.
Thank you. Mr. Starker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Woo-hoo.
When I look at the difference in Exhibit A and Exhibit C, which is sort of the full bike lanes in Exhibit C, or that's the shared lanes in Exhibit C, and the full lanes in Exhibit A. On the 26th to 29th, we have some parking on the east side of the road. We don't show the little car in schematic there, but there would be parking there on the east side. Yes. And we've got some gravel shoulder in that scenario. So in that case, we really are eliminating, I mean, that's one place that we're eliminating parking on the west side of the road because we've got curb and gutter.
Yes.
And we can't fit it in there, right?
Right. There's curb and gutter on the west side of the road. There's shoulder on the east side.
Right.
So by putting the bike lane on the west side, we're able to allow the parking on the east side then.
Okay, so that gets a bike lane in each way. What is the impact? I'm trying to think about what and I'm usually paying attention to the street, I hope. What's the impact on the residents on the east side, on the west side of that? Is it typically parked up?
There are people that park along there because it's striped that way today. A lot of those folks have fairly large driveways or long driveways and off-street parking and stuff. When the other thing, it's on the bottom of the map. Towards the bottom is sort of for each of those little, they're not quite, for each of those quarter-mile segments, it was the comments that people left us at the meeting. So in that segment, one person said they really like bike lanes, the other person was undecided, and the third person had no comment. So the three people that gave us comments there was, 1/3 of them said, we'd rather have bike lanes than nothing else.
When I go down to the 29th to 34th, we've got gravel on the west side, and I assume that would accommodate off sort of shoulder parking there?
Yes.
Where it says gravel, that's parking too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not really affecting the parking there. The same on the 34th to 38th segment, we've got a gravel shoulder on the west side, and that would accommodate parking also?
Yeah, except right down by, between 33rd and 34th, right above where it says Pier Street, there's a little spot there that wouldn't have parking. But again, those houses that are right at that location, a lot of them face the side street. They don't face Pierce necessarily. Okay. And then the green slice on the other side, right where it says street for Pierce Street, is where we would actually have striped on-street parking, even though there's a curb there, because the road gets really wide in that location.
So we could accommodate that?
Right.
And you thought that on the 38th to 41st, we could accommodate some parking on the east side in a shared lane?
Yeah, when it would also change, it would also take away the bike lane on the west side just because of the widths needed for the parking and stuff. There's just not enough room there for all that. So that whole stretch would be shared on both sides.
So from 38th going north to 41st, we would have, now, is that the same as a Sharrow?
No, the Sharrow is where you stripe it, you try to highlight to the cars that bikes will be here also. That's where the bike and the cars share the space driving and riding. With what we're calling shared lanes, there's not really a word for that in the literature, is where you have a somewhat wider parking lane that the bikes can also use. And for a lot of the street, it's, instead of being 8 feet wide, it's 8.5, 9 feet, or 9.5 feet wide. And the one place where it's blue up there that we've got proposed, it's like 10 feet wide, so there's room for the car plus 2 more feet for the bike. I don't fit in that space, but I'm a pretty big guy. But you know, again, if there's just a car every other house or every third house, you can sort of watch and wiggle around those cars. So that works pretty well, you know, at that location.
So you're sharing a bike lane with a parked vehicle?
With a parked vehicle.
With a potentially parked vehicle?
Yes.
And if there's no parked vehicle, then you've got...
Then you've got an 8-foot wide bike lane. Right.
Okay, thanks. So what I'm hearing is we have alternative 3, which is basically a designated bike lane with the exception of kind of the shared bike lane parking on both sides from 38th to 41st. Is that what I'm hearing as a consensus to?
38th to 44th, I think.
Well, there wouldn't be much change. There would, it already has.
Oh, so 38th to 41st, yeah.
Yeah, 38th to 41st, correct? And that we would appropriate the funds.
Right, for alternative A with the adjustments that we discussed.
So can I just ask a quick question? So you're saying the shared parking, just to clarify, is 38th to 44th?
41st.
Shared parking and bike lanes. We're adding 38th to 41st, right?
Yeah.
But we are designating shared.
So the change from the plan, from having bike lanes the whole way, would be 38th to 41st. We're going to change that. We already have shared parking on the east side from 38th to 41st.
We're going to add it on the west.
But we would have on the west side from 41st to 44th, we'd still have a dedicated bike lane for that short stretch that would then transition into that other thing. Now, we'll want to look at that and just see if we maybe want to do that whole stretch north of 41st as shared, just so we don't have a bike lane for a quarter mile, then we go away, and then we come back again. So we'll need to look at that, and we'll talk with our bike advocates about what would be the best thing to do. So I'm a little hesitant to put in a quarter mile of bike lane, lose it for a quarter mile, and then get it back.
Okay, so, but I guess you understand where we're coming from as far as we still want to preserve.
We want to preserve the parking from 38th to 41st. We got that.
The east side, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll come forward with a plan based off of
So
those
we come back on June 23rd, which is when the overlay bid comes to council for approval. We would have that final price for this with what's going on.
All right, thank you.
Is
Any
it
other?
23rd now?
Mr. Starker?
Would we, at the end of the process, will we have new striping through the whole corridor? And will we do a new center line? And is that a double yellow center line?
So the only place where we're, with the plan that was proposed with full bike lanes, the only place we weren't changing the center line was from 32nd down to 29th. And so we weren't going to remove that and weren't going to restripe that. We could certainly look at restriping that if it needs it. I think the striping's in pretty decent shape, but we'll let our...
And you're talking about the center line
The
stripe?
center line striping,
Okay.
yes.
And
The
that-
edge striping definitely gets changed through the whole corridor.
And is that are we doing a double yellow center line?
Yes. Yeah. And so if we do the shared parking from 38th north to wherever that terminus is, then that center line may also stay, and we'll, because that would be a cost savings. It's pretty expensive to remove the paint and then put it back. So that'll be a way to help us get within that budget also. So we can, we'll look at those options and see, and I'll have our field guy go out and look at the striping and say, yeah, this is good for another couple of years.
Okay.
There's no reason to remove it now. Let's just keep it.
And will we be looking at icons, I don't know, in the bike lane, right? You'll have the little bike symbol?
Yeah, if we have dedicated bike lanes, we'll have the little bike symbol, which now has a helmet on it, because apparently we're promoting safety even in our symbology now that we paint on the pavement, so.
We're going to be healing, so...
Right, so we'll show them with muscular calves and things like that, so.
Okay, it looks like we've got one more question, Mr.
Also robust
sorry.
signage?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
we've got signage plans sort of at all, sorry,
That's all right.
signage planned at all the mid-blocks and at the beginnings and ends of the major street intersections to let everybody, so every 300 feet or so, we'll have signage and markings.
Mr. DiTullio?
I just wanted to clarify for the record, so between 26th to 38th, which is District 1, is there any loss of on-street parking at all, based on what you just said? I thought you said no. I just want to confirm
Yes,
that.
from 26th to 29th on the west side, there would not be any on-street parking allowed.
Okay.
But again, the lots down there are fairly large. A lot of the folks, even on the east side, have big driveways and large parking areas at the garages and things like that. And at least the folks that.
I know the area.
Yeah.
And then the church and the school are going to preserve shared park. Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, so it looks like we got consensus to move forward with that plan? Okay,
Great, thanks.
okay, it
Thank you,
looks
Scott
like,
and Mark.
thank you both. Okay, so it looks like we got staff reports next.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's his,
that's our staff
all his
reports.
staff reports.
Okay, you're up. How are you guys tonight? Good, thank you. Okay,
The first staff report we have is to advise council of our 2014 Department of Justice, what they call a Justice Assistance Grant, and Division Chief Casa is the program manager for that, so I've brought Joe along to go over the grant, talk about how we'd like to spend those dollars, and take any input from council.
Okay, thank you, Chief. The Edward Byrne Memorial, or JAG grant, is solicited from the federal government, and it's a yearly solicitation. We've participated in this grant for a number of years now. The department received notification that we're eligible for $15,304 in grant monies for this year. And what the purpose of the grant is for state and local initiatives, technical assistance, training, personnel, equipment, supplies, contractual support, information systems for criminal justice and criminal justice-related research and evaluation activities that improve or enhance law enforcement programs, prosecution and court programs, and crime victim witness programs, and a variety of other community-oriented programs as well. This federal funding cannot be used to replace or supplant non-federal funds, which have been appropriated for the same purpose, and they cannot be used directly or indirectly for security enhancements as well. We've identified two priority uses for this funding. The first one is for the SWAT team, some night vision equipment. The amount of that is $7,000. We use six-man entry teams on the SWAT team. We'd like to complete an entry team having night vision goggles. We have 4 sets already, 2 of which were used from previous JAG grants, and we'd like to complete that with the purchase of two additional night vision goggles. The second project, and that one's in the amount of roughly $8,304. We're calling that the Boyd's Crossing Project. The Boyd's Crossing Project is a community-oriented policing project, which is designed to do 2 things. 1, decrease crime rates, and 2, improve the quality of life in that area. We have conducted a crime prevention and safer Wheat Ridge analysis of the neighborhood, and that has resulted in a plan focusing on targeted enforcement, general property cleanup, and the formation of neighborhood watch groups. So the grant request is for $500 to provide supplies for meetings and brochures, and the remainder of the funds are for hours of overtime for community meetings and directed patrol by officers. Patrol will be done in marked units and bike units as well. So the total cost is $15,304, and the department recommends that the City Council accept those funds, and then we'll come back to you next week asking to approve a supplemental budget increase to the police department budget accounts to purchase the above described equipment and supplies and overtime costs. Questions?
Ms. Langworthy?
Just a couple of questions specifically about the Boyd's Crossing. When you say I know it's in my district, but I don't know what you consider Boyd Crossing area. You say I-70 and Kipling. Most of that ends up being the hotel motels, but how far east-west of Kipling does that go?
We're looking right now at an area north of 44th and from Garrison to Kipling. That takes in that, it sort of takes in that industrial area, the hotel motel area, some of the housing. We have a lot of our multifamily housing units are in there, and we'll actually, because we've got some between 38th and 44th, take some of those larger housing areas. We started this project actually about a year and a half ago, really targeting the hotel motel areas because those tend to drive a lot of the crime that we have in the city, and some of our large multifamily housing. What we haven't done as good of a job, because you have this real mixture of different components with your commercial and your industrial and your motels and your large multifamily, is actually take a really hard effort at partnering with those property owners to try to form some neighborhood watch groups and some different groups and try to get an idea of people's perception as it pertains to fear of crime and quality of life in that particular area. So that's what we want to try to do.
And then one more question. On the 160 hours of overtime, it's equally to community meetings and increased patrol. It's not one or the other, or, I mean.
That's exactly. It's going to be used in a variety of different ways. It might be used for bicycle patrols. It could be used for directed enforcement efforts. It could be used for community meetings. It could be used to have officers or CSOs go out and leave literature on doors. When we did the East Wheat Ridge Community Project and we kicked that off, we actually hit every residence in the east part of Wheat Ridge. I say we hit. We stopped by and we dropped off a packet of information about police department programs, code enforcement programs. Live Well Wheat Ridge was a partner in that. Wheat Ridge 2020 was. So we gave every resident a lot of information about how they could access the city if they had questions, and also access different programs to help with cleanup or numbers to call if they had questions. So that'll be the effort on this one.
It'll be similar to the East Wheat Ridge.
To the extent that we can make it similar. They're really two different kind of areas in terms of their composition,
yes.
but yeah, similar kind of approach.
Okay, thank you.
I have two questions. In the first part, the description of the grant says it cannot be used for equipment, and does not night vision equipment qualify as equipment?
You know, I saw that when I read that, and what it pertains to is equipment that's outside of a law enforcement function, and I meant to change that. I caught that the other day, and I didn't. But we have traditionally used this grant to purchase equipment, that we haven't budgeted for, but we foresee a need for. So equipment is allowed, but it has to be for law enforcement purposes.
Okay, my second question is, do night vision goggles really cost $3,500 each?
Yes, they do.
And my question kind of goes back to what Tracy asked about. So you said Boyd's Crossing was north of 44th and west of Garrison?
Garrison west to Kipling.
To Kipling, okay. I'm asking because I've had two residents contact me that are east of Garrison and north of 44th in that community there.
Right.
And what would that neighborhood be called?
That's actually, that neighborhood north is actually where Boyd's Crossing Park is.
Okay.
That's the name.
Okay.
So it's a pretty encompassing area.
I'm just wondering if in the future, I think these residents asked for this exact same program that you're talking about, and in the future, I think that neighborhood could really, just the same kind of stuff you're doing where you are. So.
We've got a number of neighborhoods that that we're looking at that are probably in need of these kinds of programs. The issue for us is really a staffing perspective. we use quite a few staff members from the departments to do the East Wheat Ridge project. We've added the Boyd's Crossing project. We've probably got at least 4 other areas in the city that we'd like to do an effort similar to this. Part of that staffing, and then we'll be bringing back to Council Ken and I some recommendations for council to consider as it pertains to code enforcement based on your discussions. And I mean, we've identified some areas there that we think we can look at and develop programs around, but they're probably going to involve some consideration of staff. Don't know what that's going to look like yet, but we'll talk sort of, the pie in the sky. Here's what we think we could do. Here's what we think it might cost, and look for direction. But I'd be interested in having the names of those folks that called you, because I can get our crime prevention officer in touch with them, and we can do an assessment of what their needs are, and maybe we don't have to have them in this project area to start up a neighborhood watch program.
That's exactly what I was going to ask, if they could maybe attend some of your other meetings that you're going to do.
If you'll give me their names and phone numbers or email addresses, we'll outreach to them. Okay?
Any other questions? Mr. DiTullio?
Just a real quick one. So, Chief, you mentioned about expanding the East Wheat Ridge program to the Boyd's area, and we have that $115,000 in the police seizure fund that I've been working with you on. Today we had that discussion about, can this be used? So can some of that funds be used for these areas as well? To help pay for additional staffing? Or?
What I've generally done, Councilmember DiTullio is talking about the police investigative fund, and we've generally left that fund for those rainy days when we have a real emergent need. The other thing that I've tried to proactively do with that fund is not dive into it right away and spend dollars, because we may need dollars in the future that we may have to come to you, council, to ask for in terms of a supplemental budget request. We can absolutely, as I told you today, use these. We can use 15% of the dollars that we've received over the course of the year for community-based programs. So you're talking somewhere in the vicinity of about $15,000 if my math is right on that. And we may look at that for other programs, but it's still the impact on staff, and that's what I have to be careful of, because I don't want to do a program halfway. I want to get in there, and the department does, and I think the city does, and address the issues with quality of life and crime-related issues. So I want to be strategic in terms of how we take these projects on and look at those areas that have the highest crime rate, per capita, or the highest quality of life issues per capita, and deal with them that way.
Well, I guess what I was getting to is, if it's the staff issue, can that money, I can't remember the whole email, but can that money be used for labor if members of the police department wanted to work overtime on some of this or not?
I could use it for overtime, but I have overtime in so many different areas. I have to be considerate in regards to the amount of time my staff is working.
Thanks.
But I'm not opposed to looking at something. If somebody has an idea of an area that's really in need, in fact, as part of that code discussion, we could probably come back and give you, 4 to 6 other areas that probably, deserve some attention, and then prioritize those from there.
Okay. Thanks for your work on this. It sounds, I like that it's very strategic, and so thank you for that. Okay, so it looks like, do we have a consensus to move forward with this for the June meeting, to set it on the agenda to approve a supplemental budget appropriation? It looks like the June 9th council, so the next one. All right. Next
Can I
item.
add one other thing just to that real quick? The other thing that the grant requires is that we seek community input. And we seek community input. The way that we've done it is through our website. So we've posted the grant on there and have asked people if they have ideas on better ways for the department to spend those dollars. They can notify us and make a request. I've been around these grants since about 1997, and very seldom do we get actual community input. But if you know somebody that might have ideas, we'd certainly be willing to listen to them, and they can send us a message via the internet. Okay?
Thank you. Okay, so the next agenda item looks like something coming up this weekend. Chief Brennan, would you?
Sure, thank you. We're going to have our annual East Wheat Ridge Community Policing Project Cleanup Day. And I'd like to talk just for a minute about how this was done, so council has an idea of the work that went into this. We have an internal team within the police department. Commander Wade Hammond from my patrol division has been sort of the project coordinator on the East Wheat Ridge project, and then Supervisor Mary McKenna from our community services team has been actively involved in this. And then we use the data we get from our crime analysts to look at particular hotspots, or, from a crime perspective or a quality of life perspective. But last year we brought in, and we've partnered with Britta Fisher from Wheat Ridge 2020 since 2009 when we began this project. But late last year and through this year, both Councilmember DiTullio and Councilmember Starker have been active participants in discussions about how should we approach some of the continuing issues that we're seeing in that neighborhood. Earlier this year, in February and March, we actually went out with Britta Fisher and our CSOs and some officers and actually did sort of a visual survey of the East Wheat Ridge area, and out of that we targeted a specific area that still looked like it was in a state of decline, and had some areas that needed to be addressed from a nuisance code enforcement issue, and that information was shared with both council members, and we came up with a targeted approach to doing cleanup in this area. Now, when we try to do these things, we don't do it from an enforcement perspective. We sort of use what I call a carrot and stick approach. We try to educate people. We try to give them information on what they can do to clean up their particular pieces of property or address nuisance code issues that need to be addressed. So we share that information with them. We have a dumpster day, so we give everybody the opportunity to come to selected locations and get rid of any junk, trash, or debris that they have. And then we'll go back through that area and do a second assessment. And then based on that second assessment, we'll start to contact any problem residents. And by problem residents, I mean those residences that still have, obvious violations to those, and issue them warnings. If they're interested in working with us, then we'll certainly work with them. And if not, then we'll go through our administrative hearing process to try to get the nuisance code issues abated. There's a map of flyer and then a map on the back of it that gives you an idea of the 8 locations that we're going to have dumpsters placed. Last year when we did this, we put 4 dumpsters out, and we ended up filling another dumpster and a half because there was so much stuff that was left there. Obviously, we don't take things like asbestos and paints and chemicals, but we do give people ideas on where they can take those materials. We've got a pretty good outreach effort in place in regards to how we're going to do this on Saturday. We'll have patrol officers out there. We'll have community service officers. We have police volunteers from our police volunteer program that will be out to assist us. Police explorers. Mr. DiTullio has gotten, I think, about a half a dozen students from Wheat Ridge High School, that are going to help as well. And I think that we're going to have, the plan, I think, was to have tables at each of the dumpster sites so we could hand out information. And we're also going to try to have a survey in place to have people fill out when they're there that sort of addresses issues of quality of life and crime and traffic in particular neighborhoods, to sort of get an assessment of where people are at in regards to where they see problems in the areas or what's really working in those areas. So we want to focus on the positive and then areas of concern as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Jerry and Bud can jump in as well.
I was going to tell Bud, Wednesday I'm working with Wade, but we're going to be doing another lit drop of that flyer, an updated one. I have students that are going to hit 29th to 32nd, Ames to Fenton. And then if you want to be part of that, let me know. We may do it Wednesday around 10 a.m. I'm taking them to lunch afterwards. And then they're going to be manning some of the dumpsters. They're juniors and seniors.
Ms. Langworthy?
Just one question. I don't see it on here, so I don't know if it got updated and that's included then, is electronics can't be, my understanding is a new law went in effect recently that electronics can't be thrown into.
That's right.
Okay, so they'll be informed of that as well,
Well, I'll check on that tomorrow. So.
Okay. I think that.
Paint can't be thrown in there. There's a variety of different things can't be thrown in.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking at the other ones, and I know those can't, but I thought it was like April 1st or something that it went into effect, that we're no longer supposed to be putting electronics into the trash at all.
And we're having an recycling event coming up too, so maybe we could pass that information out Saturday to those folks.
That might be a good thing. I just, it's one of those, I mean, I'm a fanatic recycler, but, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize that they're not supposed to be doing that. So it's a good way to kind of let people know that you're not supposed to put them into the trash.
Thank you.
So I'll work with Wade in the morning. We'll make sure we get that right.
Any other
An
questions?
updated flyer out.
Thank you for your work on this. Okay, so you got one more to go.
So I wanted to take the opportunity to update council on the regionalized records management system. So some of you were around in 2009, and some of you are new to council. But in 2009, the city was going through a pretty significant reduction of budget because of the economy. Everybody was. And as part of that, I, along with the other chiefs and the sheriffs in sheriff in Jefferson County, got together and talked about what could we do to regionalize some law enforcement services so that we could improve customer service, reduce redundant costs, particularly in technology because it's so expensive, and improve efficiencies or effectiveness. And if it saved dollars, you know, that was all the better. So council at that time gave me direction to look at into the regionalization of a couple of things: a records management system, a regionalized communications center, and other efforts that might save money or make us more efficient and effective in the job that we do. And I've given you some examples of some things that we've done since that time. We no longer have our own SWAT team. We've merged our SWAT team with Lakewood, so we've reduced the number of members on that team. We've improved training, equipment, and those kinds of things. And we're a better functioning unit when we have to use a SWAT team with the two teams combined than we were just with one team. We have a data sharing agreement for crime analysis software, Lumen, with Arvada and Lakewood, which is really has cost us a small amount of money because we have to pay license fees for what we're using. But it allows us to share information on crime and traffic that we generally wouldn't have had before unless we made a phone call. We have the Forensic Crime Laboratory out in Jefferson County now, which is really a combined effort of a number of entities. So we've been working on a regional communications or a consolidation of communications to see if it would work, and Joe and I will be bringing a memo to you with some recommendations on it, we hope, by July or August, so we can do some budget planning around that. But the regionalized records management system really took off late last year because a number of the larger entities were suddenly faced with the prospect of having to update their records management system. In 2009, when I talked to City Council about records and a CAD system, and then later on to the Citizens Budget Oversight Committee, we were already anticipating, because of the age of our current records management system, that at some point we were going to have to replace it. In 1999, when we bought the current Logis system for about $650,000 for the RMS and the CAD piece of that, you know, we knew that at some point we would have to update that and look at something else. And when we started to look into that in 2009, it was going to cost us somewhere between $1.5 to $2 million to get what we would call a middle tier system for Wheat Ridge. And so what we did out of that in discussions with the city manager and council was we created an equipment replacement fund, technology equipment replacement fund, with the idea that we would try to put dollars aside every year, you know, so that when we had to purchase this, it wouldn't be as big of an expense as going out and trying to find $1 to $2 million in our current budget. When the department did this back in '99, they actually had to put a special sales tax increase in place that sunshined, but that was the way that they funded that in 1998. We didn't want to be in that position either. We wanted to plan for this. So you'll remember 2 years ago, we actually used some of that money about $250,000 worth of that money to buy new portable radio systems because we needed to upgrade those. So the bottom line on the records management system process is Edgewater and Golden, who are partners in this, they have systems that are on their last gasp. They're dying, and they could quit and fail at any time. Lakewood and Arvada need to transition to a new system because the system that they have is no longer going to be supported after next year. The Sheriff's Office is also looking at moving from the current RMS system to a new RMS system. So combined, what we did was we did a request for information. We had personnel from every agency, both tech people, and we had officers, and we had records management specialists that looked at the data from the RFIs. We put together an RFP process that was completed, and out of that selected 3 vendors that a team of folks from each agency went out and did actual site visits. So they went to Texas, they went to Oregon, and they went to Colorado Springs to look at an example of each of those systems. The system that they narrowed down on and focused on is called Niche. It's a Canadian corporation. Their product is used throughout the world. It's used throughout Canada, throughout England, Ireland, Australia, and a number of other European countries, as well as much larger law enforcement operations in the United States, both in Oregon. Colorado State Patrol just signed a contract with them, as is Springfield, Missouri. The challenge with Niche is they'll only take you on if you have 500 users. So we would never be in a position to look at Niche as a RMS system. We would have to look elsewhere. But they have a lot of experience in doing regionalized systems. They do a lot of those for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, where they have offices in different areas throughout Canada. So the recommendation was to go with Niche. They have a very good track record from a customer support perspective, from the quality of their product, and also from working with regionalized systems. So you remember I told you that we were looking at about $1.5 to $2 million for a new CAD RMS system. So an RMS system, about $1 million. Our cost over the course of the initial 4 years of the project, if we went with this company, would be just short of $170,000, $168,540 to purchase our share of that. The memorandum to you sort of outlines the milestone payments, which would start this year, a payment of $9,500. We wouldn't come on board for the entire system until sometime in late 2016 is when we would anticipate coming on. We're actually, out of all the other organizations, in the best position. We do have some customer support issues with Logisys, but we've been able to work through a lot of those. We could probably wait and not participate in this and wait about another 3 to 5 years. But if we did that, we'd be on our own and we wouldn't be able to take advantage of this. So it's my recommendation that, with your approval, that we move forward, that you give me permission to sign a project charter and start to work on this, and we can start to have folks from our IT division and our records section start to work with this larger group to do the planning from a logistics perspective that's going to be necessary to put this RMS system in place. And this solves one half of the equation. We still need to deal with the computer-aided dispatch, and my hope is either we look at some form of regionalization or consolidation. If that's not going to work, then there is a regionalized CAD system effort that's out there as well, and we might be able to take advantage of that. Again, I think at a substantial saving from us going out and purchasing the product as well. And I've listed, I think, about 7 bullets there in regards to how we feel that this system is going to help your police department.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Wooden?
So would some of these other communities that you mentioned, would they be using the system before we came on?
Yes.
They would, so they would start using it sooner.
Edgewater and Golden, I think, are slated in early 2015 because Edgewater and Golden, I think I got that right, because their systems are dying. And they're 2 small organizations, so the feeling is that we can get through installing this system in their organizations, see what the bugs are, see what we need to do, because when we start moving on to the bigger agencies, it's going to be more of a challenge.
So So then do all these communities sign an agreement together to niche?
Yes, we'll sign an agreement with Niche, but we'll also bring back to you an intergovernmental agreement.
Okay, that's
So,
what I was
so much like, these other examples I've given you, there'll be an IGA related to that.
Mr. Starker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Nice report, Chief. It looks like for our $650,000 in 1999, we got about 15 years, or 15-plus years out of our current system.
Yes.
Would you anticipate that our investment in this system would yield similar results?
I'm going to ask Joe to help me respond to this. I think the biggest challenge that I've seen as a manager in law enforcement and as a chief has been the issue of technology and public safety. And, you're sort of on this bullet train, and you don't want to be at the front of it because you're at the bleeding edge, but you don't want to be the guy that's in a little push cart and the two of you are trying to catch up to the caboose. So we've tried to take a pretty strategic approach to looking at this. This is a really, really good product, and I would anticipate a pretty long history with that product as well. They're much more vibrant. They're a much larger corporation. They have a much larger users group that submits ideas on changes to the system. So I would anticipate, a fairly long history. Now, whether that's 8 years, 15 years, 20 years, that I couldn't comment on, and I don't know if Joe wants to make a comment on that at all.
No, I think when you look at the financials of this group and how long they've been in business and all the customer support that they provide, they're certainly in this for the long haul, and they pay attention to their customers of when changes are needed. They're very, very receptive to that. So I agree that we would be in this for the long haul.
Good. And would you think that after we pay short of the 170, would we sort of have an annual retainer to keep our software up to date and whatever interfaces?
Yeah, there's two questions in that. One is you have an annual software maintenance agreement. I think right now with Logisys it's about $40,000 a year, and then if we want any changes to the system, we have to pay for those. With this company, we would have an annual software agreement right about for the same amount of money. Actually, I think it's a little bit less than that. The interface presents a different challenge because you pay for interfaces and you pay for the conversion of data. So there may be a period of time, and this is what the organization did when they made the transition to Logisys, where we keep that old system up and running just so that we can access those 15 years of data, because the cost of data conversion is pretty expensive. They actually have a interface toolkit that they use. So if another agency out there that's using Niche has already done an interface for a particular company, they just give you the interface. If you need to do an interface with somebody a company that an interface hasn't been done with yet, then you pay a fee for that. The interface is done, and then it's available to any of the other users if they need it. So they have a lot of interesting customer service kinds of things that they do that we think we could take advantage of.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So you just need a consensus to move forward with this?
Just a consensus to sign the project charter and move forward with it, and then we'll be
You'll bring
bringing
an
an IGA later
Okay.
this year.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a consensus, yeah. Okay. All right, other staff reports, Patrick?
That's it, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief and Joe.
Yeah, thank you. Elected official reports, Mr. DiTullio?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fitzgerald, aren't you glad I called you the right name all night?
Yeah, that's all right. You first.
It made me think about it for a minute.
Nothing, no report.
Okay, Ms. Wooten?
Just an update on the Education Committee. We had a meeting today, and we'll have our first principals meeting next week, where we're gathering together the principals from the schools that we've identified that serve Wheat Ridge residents, and we're moving forward, and it's really exciting. We have a list of goals to accomplish by next year, so I'll bring that to you in a few weeks.
Thank you. Mr. Starker?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Ms. Langworthy?
Just one quick reminder, Friday night is the Art Walk Friday, and it's actually going to be a very big event. I mean, it's not going to be a traditional small one, so there'll be a lot of things going on at the Green at 38th.
On
music.
Friday night?
Friday night.
Okay. Okay, and I just have one thing, an update from Renewal Wheat Ridge. If you haven't heard, which I believe all of this group has heard, but perhaps TV Land hasn't heard, that our developer got approved for the CHAFA funds for Phase 2 of the senior housing apartments. They're on 44th and Wadsworth, so hopefully we'll be seeing some activity here soon once they get rolling with that. But the good news is they were approved for their second development. This one will be a bit smaller. Ideally, we were shooting for the same size with retail on the first floor, but just didn't work out that we could do that. And this was a good way that Chafa, it's kind of a happy medium, fewer units, but still some development on that site. So there's good news with that.
Yeah, so the developer, Wazi Partners, will be constructing the 50-unit building. They'll also be buying the last pad from the Urban Renewal Authority, which is the interior pad just to the south of Panda King. So, and they're very, I think I've mentioned this before, bullish about about City of Wheat Ridge and are excited about the Wheat Ridge's future. So they want to acquire that property to hopefully do a for-market project on that site.
And the good news about that is, as you guys all recall, we had kind of changed some funding to pay down that loan. So the good news is pretty soon that loan will not be around. So that's good news too. So I think that's it. Meeting adjourned.
Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry.
I do have something that it's for public information, and I would like the council members to help spread the word on this because I'm going to be saying it tonight and the next 3 Monday nights. We're in primary season for the election, and if you noticed, our little ballot box is up, and today the security video camera was installed, so it's ready to go, and they watch it out at the county. In fact, when they installed it, and the guy went back home to the Taj, and he couldn't see it, and he came back all the way, and now it's all cool. So they can monitor it from there. But the ballots were mailed out today, so if you are a Democrat or a Republican, you should be getting a ballot. If you are registered as an independent, you won't get a ballot. But if you would like to vote in the primary, you can go either out to the county or to one of the voter service centers. The closest, I believe, which for us is 20th and Wadsworth at the motor vehicle division there. You can go in, and then you will have to declare a party, and then they will write you print you up a ballot. But so that's one thing about that's new this year for registration for independents if they would like to declare a party so they can vote in the primary. And then for those folks that are getting ballots, and if they want to bring them to City Hall, all they have to do is drive in the lane, drop them off in the box, and turn around and be on their way. They don't have to get out of the car. They don't have to come into City Hall. We'll probably have a box because we decided today there's probably going to be people who will drive right past it, park their car, come into City Hall and say, "Where's the box to put my ballot in?" So just spread the word to everybody out there in television land in Wheat Ridge, and if any of you council folks get calls from constituents because because you're elected, you know everything about every election there is, and they might want to know, so tell them to just drop their ballot right in the box, and they don't even have to come in. So help spread the word on that. Yes, Mr. Fitzgerald.
I was just going to clarify that if you're not a member of the Republican or Democratic Party, you can choose a party, but if you are a member of one of those parties, you cannot change your party.
Thank you. You cannot change your affiliation just for the primary. Okay.
Thank you for that information.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, now we're adjourned. Thank you.